This is Pat Roquet, leadership and career strategist, and I'm here today with the amazing Lynn Paolicelli, and we are going to hear her story and understand how Lynn just rocked her new career. So Lynn, thank you so much for joining us. Tell me about your early days. How'd you start out in healthcare?
Hi, Pat. First of all, thank you for having me. I started out in healthcare as a teenager. No, I'm kidding. As a psychiatric nurse at a hospital that was all psychiatric, and then the unit where I worked had patients who had schizophrenia. So I worked there for a couple of years, and I absolutely loved it. I learned so much about. I was fortunate enough to work in a hospital that was, you had the medical school right there. So we had all kinds of residents and medical students and physicians. And I had a very collegial, collaborative relationship with the physician. So I built a little confidence. Communication was really important. I don't think I knew this at the time, but later looking back, I realized in order to influence people, physicians, you really have to understand how to take your facts, pull them together, make a compelling argument. And the same thing goes true for a patient who has schizophrenia and is hearing things and seeing things that you can't see and hear, and you want to get them to take their medication.
So for those out there who are hands-on healthcare providers or frontline of any industry, how did you know it was time to change, and how did you find your transferable skills?
So sometimes you do things and you don't know why or how you do them. I know it came to me at one point and I thought, this was much longer ago. I wasn't aware of roles I could play with my nursing degree that made it feel more fulfilling. But I thought I can be the best nurse on this unit, and I'm going to get my cost of living raised. So I was looking for something that if you overperformed, you could be compensated in some way for that. I think that's sort of what I was thinking and feeling. And my dad was a salesperson. My brothers were salespeople. So I thought, let's look at sales. And I happened to find a company that made two lines of products. One was advanced or moist wound healing, which was a very new concept at the time. And the other one was patients who have all kinds of ostomies, and they only hired patients who had ostomies or nurses.
Right.
So it was in the cards for me.
So you were able to go with your love of healthcare and being a hands-on provider and healer, to realizing you're there to make an impact, to then taking your transferable skills and saying, what else can I do with this next chapter? And thinking about the familiarity of it from your family background, and thinking, I'm a talker, I'm a communicator, and taking a step toward that next role. So now you've been a hands-on nurse, you've been a rep carrying the bag, so they say, and you've then pivoted on and become part of the healthcare system in the agency side, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, yes. And that transition, I can't say that it's one the getting into the agency, I engineered. What was fortunate for me is the first product that I got to work on was a medication for schizophrenia. And that made the transition pretty seamless because I was viewed as somebody with a body of knowledge no one else had. So I intimately knew the impact on patients. I intimately knew how the disease of schizophrenia just breaks families down. And I had certainly a working understanding of the science. We actually had done double-blind clinical trials at my hospital. So all those things really put me in a very strong position of them coming to me to understand that product. And then from them, I was learning how agencies operate.
And it's interesting, you just reminded me, because my mom was an RN and I grew up in a healthcare household and started off in dietary in a hospital, but knew I didn't want to be in the hospital. And I've been doing healthcare marketing and stereo surround sound for years. But when I went from being on the agency side to WebMD, I didn't know how to be a strategic salesperson, but they wanted me for my relationships and they wanted me for my oncology experience. So again, you and I both clearly didn't have all that long checklist, but what we had was the secret sauce pieces of a team to bring that to the table, the things that they were lacking, the relationships, money can't buy that. No. And so you are both a warm relationship builder with a plethora of innate knowledge and hands-on experience in those disease states. So kind of that 1-2 punch. So from hands-on caregiver through those steps, it's doable. It makes sense. And you have to stretch and grow. I'm sure you were probably a little bit hesitant or a little bit worried about not having all the check boxes. Is that true?
Absolutely. And, again, when I look back, I think there were things I did innately well. Like, I think I'm really good at influencing. I didn't know this then. One of the things that we were trained on when I was a sales rep and a sales manager was something called strategic selling. And it helped you really understand how to create tentacles within an organization, and really to name some of the things that were important to get people to buy. And I was doing them. But the fact that I could now name them, I went, oh, now I can repeat them. I can do them consciously. And I think relationship building, I have an intuitive sense of when I can push a little bit and when I need to kind of back off. And when I could start naming that, those are one of those skills, Pat, that it supersedes the actual job that you're doing. And it's one that I've used as I went from sales rep, sales manager, training and development leader, agency person. I've sold a number of different things, but the one thing I've always tried to apply is the fact that I really feel like I'm a master at building relationships. I can earn your trust. And I realize that takes some time to do. It's not a transaction. It's about building a relationship with people.
Right. Networking is not transactional. We talk about that in the mastermind all the time, and it's true. So you've had some recent good news happen. Can you share a little bit about that process?
Absolutely. Yes. First of all, I separated from a company that I was with not too long ago. And over the summer, I just sort of took a little time off. And then I got to the point where I said, I'm ready to do this. I'm tired of not having like my dream job. And I came along one of your seminars and I was like, hey, that's exactly what I need to do. I was at a point where I didn't lack focus entirely, but I didn't have the focus I felt I needed to actually name my dream job. That was one thing. And the second thing I totally lacked was accountability. I have friends, we talk about it, other friends who weren't working, but I really needed something like you were offering. And so I obviously signed up for your program. And then I was uber motivated because it's not your least expensive program. And so one of the important things that we did is the strength finders. And you really helped me to understand how packaging up those strengths, it sort of pointed me in the direction of the job that I wanted to do. So I saw a job that was posted, and it was for an account director, which is the role I play. But the services that I would be supporting were in the learning and development arena, which is, I'm fascinated by that. I'm excited by it. And I said, oh my goodness, I think that job was written for me. And so do you mind if I tell you what happened?
No, please do.
So you and I worked on it. I said, okay, we haven't looked at my resume yet. We've talked about my strengths. Can you tweak my resume? And I was very pleased to find out that there wasn't a lot of tweaking to do. You did a couple of things, like worked in the fact that I'm a former nurse, which I was really grateful for because I feel like I don't really play off of that enough. And it's important. It really is a big part of why I understand the patients, the families, the broader perspective. So then we put it through an applicant tracking system I did to just see, well, if I just apply to this job online, what would happen? Came up with 35% match. This job that was written for me, I was faced with a choice. Do I make all these small tactical edits to my resume so that it might possibly get through their tracking system, or do I go find people in that company that can support me?
Yes.
And I'm what I call authentic networker. I love connecting with people, not in transactional ways, in really authentic ways. So I went and I found a couple of people. I looked in LinkedIn and said, I didn't have any direct connections. So how many of these connections are there high levels of people in common, right? So I reached out to about 4 or 5 people and I said, look, I'm looking at this job. I feel like I feel like it was written for me. So as I'm pursuing this in a formal manner, would you mind spending some time with me informally, just to talk with me about what lights you up about working for this company? Just share your point of view.
So let's stop a second, 1 second, because I want everybody to catch that. You applied, you found a job that looked like your dream job on paper. I wholeheartedly agree. You and I have similar backgrounds. I'm not the nurse, but similar backgrounds through the agency world. And I totally felt that same thing. It was definitely you on paper. So we do your resume. It was impactful, bullet on point, quantifiable wins, bam, bam, bam. And yet the ATS did not give us any love. So your choices were either to chase the computer or engage with real people. Both take time. So where should you invest your time? And you, being Lynn, chose the people route and worked your network, not to ask for help, but to ask what lights them up about being there, right? Think about it.
Right.
Not putting people in an awkward spot and asking for help, especially if you're a total stranger to them, but leveraging connections and just showing enthusiastic interest and saying what lights you up about this organization and building new or reinforcing and nurturing relationships. True?
That's, you nailed it.
Magic.
Yeah,
People
yes,
magic.
it
And what
was.
happened? What about that little written application? How about
Oh
that?
my goodness, I forgot about that. And I can't remember.
That was fun.
In the sequence of events, right? So what happened first was one of the people I connected with, she wasn't even in healthcare. She was in healthcare 1 year. But other than that, we had similar interests. We're both passionate about growth and development, right? Mm-hmm. So she and I hit it off when we talked on the phone, and she's in HR. And I did not ask her, but before we got off the phone, she said, I'm going to walk your resume into the recruiter, and I will promise you I get it to the hiring manager.
Bam.
Really? Bam. Because that triggered the formal process. And that's when the recruiter and I had a conversation. And then she sent me a list of questions to fill out. Some of them were HR questions, like, tell me about your background, your qualifications. But about 10 or 12 of them were behavioral interview questions. I applauded them because I thought, wow, this is really an ideal way to understand how people think, how articulate they are, verb in writing, et cetera. So that was another area where you really helped me, because I had a chance to, and I liked it because at first I was like, can you write these for me, Pat? And you were like, take a first run at it. And I'm grateful for that, because it was mine. Then you helped me tweak them, wordsmith them, make sure that they were powerful. And I felt really good about that, but I owned those because
you had to show how you think. Coaching you was not about spoon feeding you answers so that you sounded like a pat parrot. It was about helping me get inside your head to see, first of all, viscerally, how would you respond? And then second of all, being able to work with you and think out loud together about how to position some of the answers. For example, what happened on question maybe 3, when they said, do you have a bachelor's degree? And your first answer was?
No.
And what did I say? No, we don't say no. But instead, what did we put? I am a registered nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't say no. We said, this is better. And we had just learned that because Maria from the group had just shared with us maybe a couple of weeks prior, right? She was up for a position. And when they said, do you have this experience? And she first said no, we had just worked her through saying, don't just say no. How about if we share an example or 2 or 3 of better than that, right? So bachelor's degree is one thing, but RN, hands-on nurse, is completely the holy grail of someone who's got empathy for the patient care. You were there on the front line with it. So that was really important. And I think they also kind of jumped and asked some, I likened it to, instead of your first swipe on Tinder, they asked, what are you going to name your firstborn child? They were some really specific, what you wanted and expected in your final negotiation on the first set of questions on the first day before the first interview. Right. So that was work and that was fun, but it was about seeing your response, understanding where your head was at, and then using that as a teachable moment to help make you agile as you were going to be having those future conversations, because you ended up, how many people did you meet in that company by the time you finally got the job? 7,
1, 2, 3,
something?
5, 6, 7, 9.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You
Yep.
worked the system and worked the team. And so you were already kind of a familiar face by the time they made the offer. So you are now applying your love of people, your strategy, your nursing background, your brand side, carrying the bag skills, and your agency skills, and are now living La Vida Loca and about to really step into your dream role, which is the culmination. So if we think about the process and why hire a coach? You're a smart, successful woman. Why hire a coach? What are just a couple of quick thoughts as far as what are some of the takeaways that make it worthwhile to invest? Because it's an investment of your time, of your money, of your focus. You're saying no to something else to say yes to doing this. What were a couple of the takeaways?
Well, I told you in the beginning, I think I believe everything happens for a reason. I'm not even sure how I came to be aware of that like program that you were doing that night, but that happened. And I was at the point where I was like, okay, I'm ready to just supercharge this thing because it's annoying just doing the same thing and getting like mediocre results, right? And I do, I never believed in like that applying to every job that comes up. I think that's a waste of time. And I was ready for it. I was really ready for it. And when you look at the ROI, it was an investment of over $5,000, and I increased my salary by 10%. It was a strong ROI, let's just say. And it was the thing I needed. I wasn't looking for somebody to spoon feed me. I'm not a baby bird, but every single one of us, some of us are good at giving this same sort of advice to other people, right? But I can't do it for myself, number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, I could ask a friend and they would help me, but your perspective is based on thousands of experiences. Theirs is based on one. And I even have some friends who would be straight up with me and tell me stuff I don't want to hear, but that's still one opinion. I really wanted some of the things that were advantageous. So that's a reflection of your coaching. But then I had people in the group that I'm just bouncing ideas off of. And, what do you guys think about that? What do you think about that? And you have to have some level of confidence to do that, because if you're not as far along as other people, you might start to, there's a line in the Desiderata that says, don't compare yourself to others, for there will always be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Right. So you can't, you have to be conscious of just where you are. It's a learning experience. And if you're ready, you got to be ready, because the other thing is, I think dipping your toe in and out is less productive.
Right. So just chasing freebies and trying to latch on a little piece of this one, a little piece of that, is nowhere near the same impact as diving headfirst into the water in the deep end and working it fully.
Yeah.
Engaging and working it fully. Well, we are super proud of you. We are celebrating your success. We are grateful for your leadership from the front, for what you do out in the world, and for your perspective that you also bring, because as you said, the Rock on Success cohort and the mastermind are really a family and a collaborative place. And you have shown that great things are possible. And we met and you started your yes, from the day we met to your yes, was under 2 months. I looked at the calendar, September 30th, we met, and before Thanksgiving, you already had your job offer, and we're just tying up details. Yes. So big things are possible. Did you get, is it not just a number? It's a number, but it's not just a number. It's about the whole opportunity. Is that not true?
Oh, absolutely. This job was such a good fit. I might have taken it for less money. But the fact that, I had the confidence, I have never negotiated a comp package in that way.
Did I make you sweat?
And I did it with confidence, and I was like, let's just have this conversation. So I didn't feel defensive. I didn't feel, let's talk about this, because here's an area where I'd feel better if we were in a different place.
Good for you. We are proud of you. We will continue to have you participate and feed in because it's not just about acquiring a job. Professional development is about continually keeping, sharpening the sword, because like little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. When you're looking for a job, it's one set of things on your mind, but then as you're acclimating and then you're doing leadership and team development or new product development or looking for entree into new things, you know that you've got a team of folks to fall back on that care about you and are cheering for you and are happy to open doors as you have been doing for them as well. So Lynn, you totally rock. Thank you so much for sharing, and God bless you on your way. Keep us posted, girl.
Thanks, Pat.
You got it.
Take care.